Ready for questions at this point? Our first question, does a structural engineering master's and bachelor's degree count towards the 3 years of qualifying educational experience from any field of engineering that is directly related to the classification for which the application is being made? Where the intended classification is B, and I'm guessing or B2, how many years would that qualify? Once again, we don't do a structural engineering. We have civil engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and then other engineering. For the B, it would count if it is civil engineering degree. It would count for the B classification for the full 3 years. The B2 is a non-structural classification, so that would get you 24 months, and that's speaking generically. So we would need to see the actual degree first before they would assign actual value to the degree. Also, you mentioned that there were 2 degrees. They will take one of the degrees, whichever one has the most credit towards your experience. So they can't stack the 2 of them together. They will take whichever one provides the most for the classification that you're going for and assign that credit to it. Are specialty contractors limited to one Class C license? No, you can have as within certain requirements. A contractor can have several licenses. Sole owners can have as many sole owner licenses as they want, or they can add extra classifications to one license. So some people like to have one license of which they have multiple classifications on their B, C10 electrical, C33 painting, and those are all under one license. Some people do like to keep them separate, and so they'll have one sole owner license for their B contracting. They'll have one sole owner license for their C10. And so either way. Now, when you get into corporations, then it matters who is the qualifier. Only one person can only qualify up to 3 licenses at one time within a year period. But there are restrictions on that as well. If you're looking to be a qualifier on multiple licenses for people, then you'll want to contact us for the restrictions on being the same qualifier on multiple licenses.
Hello, I'm still currently taking college course for business. I want to start a business, but I won't be the one working. I have family members who are journeymen and a supervisor skilled level worker. I assume I do not qualify. So if you do not have hands-on experience, you would not qualify. However, your family members, according to what is stated in your question, could possibly be a qualifier for a certain classification. However, the application would have to be turned in, and we would have to, CSLB would have to review the experience to see if they would go forward with the classification that they've applied for.
To install a solar system, do I require electrical and solar license C10 and C46, or do I need any other license to provide solar system installations? By solar systems, I'm guessing you're referring to photovoltaic electrical systems. If that is the case, either of those 2 classifications currently can install solar systems, and that's where it gets a little tricky when we're referring to systems. So both the C10 and the C46 can install the systems. However, if it requires panel upgrades or upgrades to the electrical system in a house or commercial property, then obviously you're going to need the C10, but it is not required to have both if you're just installing the rooftop solar system itself and connecting it to existing paneling and everything. You can do it with a C10 or you can do it with a C46.
What are the educational and experience requirements for the new residential remodeling B2 licensing? So educational is completely optional. If somebody has education, you're welcome to submit it and we can review it and make a determination whether or not you would receive credit for that schooling. As far as experience goes, for the B2, you need 3 unrelated trades. We do not count structural framing, rough framing, any kind of towards that. It does have to exclude that. You can't install a new HVAC system. Still the same thing as a B. You can't do well drilling. You can't do fire. What's it called? Fire protection. But you do have to have 3 unrelated trades to qualify for the B2 classification.
If I get the B2 license and work with it for a certain time with that license, would that time count towards the 4-year requirements for the Class B general building contractor's license? For the additional trades part of it, yes. So the B2 allows you to do residential remodeling, but it is non-structural. Doing the B2 license is not going to gain you any credit towards the structural framing aspect of a B general building contractor's license. It would enable you to have credit towards the additional trades required for the B2, but you're still going to need to have 4 years of framing or rough carpentry to do, which you can't get under the B2 license.
How do individual college class credits translate generally to months of credit? For example, 1 construction management class equals 1 month credit. So unfortunately, we can't divulge that. Again, you're always welcome to submit your transcripts, whether you've obtained a degree or you've just taken classes and you're in the process of getting a degree, and we can have it looked at for potential credit towards your classification. However, we can't divulge how much credit 1 class would give you.
We'd need to see your transcript.
Yeah.
So that one, if it allowed any credit at all, that's going to be on a case-by-case basis, and we'd need to see your transcripts. But it would be minimal education value at best. Next question, yes, PV systems. So yes, referring back to the C10, C46, currently, as I said, right at this moment, a C10 and a C46 can install PV systems, one or the other. Naturally, if you have both, you're covered as well. But once again, they are talking about whether that will change in the future. And once again, if it requires any change to the electrical system at all, obviously you're going to need the C10.
So how is the owner-builder experience added up to determine an equivalent amount of years of experience to count towards the 4-year requirement? For example, a remodel that takes 6 months, does that count as 6 months of experience or some different amount? Mm-hmm. So again, unfortunately, we can't divulge the formula that is calculated on our end, on CSLB's end, when it comes to owner-builder experience. It is not 6 months for 6 months. However, the owner-builder experience does have to show that you, the owner-builder, is doing the work, that you did not hire contractors to do a substantiated amount of the work that you're claiming to do, because we do need to see that you're performing it, and therefore you're the one who's gaining the experience and you're the one who's applying for the license.
The generalization on that, So somebody may be remodeling their house and they may take a year to do it. Once all of the proper documents are sent in, the permits, the scope of the project, the final reports and reviewed, the deputy will look at that. And in general, what they do is they look at the amount of work performed over the square footage and everything and put that to what a normal contractor would take to perform that work, and give that amount of credit for it. So while you may have been working on it part-time and it took you a year to complete that, had you hired a contractor to do that, it may have been completed in 2 months. And so the deputy will look at the scope of the work and what was being performed and what a reasonable contractor would have taken to perform that work. And that's usually how they base the amount of time granted on that. Would working with a construction management company provide any work experience credit if the supervisor was general? So if you're working for somebody who is licensed, yes, the work that you're performing under a licensed contractor, yes, that will count towards your experience. When you say construction management company, that can sometimes be someone who is a developer or something like that, but they actually hire in all of the work done. That wouldn't count because you were working for the management company and not working under the construction person. But if you're working for someone licensed, yes, the work you're performing under that licensed general contractor, depending on the trades that you perform, that will count towards experience.
Well, a 6-month long owner builder project generally translates directly to 6 months of qualifying credit, assuming it's a large remodel project. So again, it's kind of similar to the question earlier, not necessarily. So owner builder has a different calculation. Again, we can't divulge our formulas. However, what our deputy will look at is the completed projects, the permits, the finalized inspection reports from the city or the county that the permits were pulled at, and then make a determination from there. But it isn't tit for tat where 6 months work, 6 months credit when it's owner builder.
For D6 license, specialty C61 specialty license, does trade school 1 year and journeyman qualify for it? So it would depend on the trade school and what you'd taken. That would be kind of like a transcript that you would need to send in, and the deputy would review that transcript to see if any of that would apply to the classification that you're going for. Journeyman experience will qualify as long as the journeyman experience applies to the D6 classification. So trade school would need to be evaluated case by case. Journeyman will count towards experience as long as it's within the classification that you're applying for.
Can you please give me 3 examples of unrelated trades for the B2 that would qualify? And how many years experience is required in those trades? So as a whole, your experience should be 48 months of experience in the classification that you're going to apply for. So for the B2, 3 unrelated trades could possibly be painting, drywall, cabinetry, it could be gardening, plumbing. They just have to be 3 unrelated trades.
For the B2 license, I'm not sure if that's a continuation.
I think it was just a continuation.
So yeah, as she stated, Basically for the unrelated trades, it is most trades other than the C5 structural framing, rough carpentry. That doesn't apply to the B2 because it's just for non-structural remodeling. But yes, minor electrical, minor plumbing, drywall, painting, all of those other trades will apply for the B2.
If I receive 3 years credit for my civil engineering BS degree, I would not be allowed to receive additional credit for individual, say, construction management classes, right? So that is correct. 1 degree, 1 credit. There is nothing, you cannot stack them. Whichever one would give you the most credit is what we would grant you.
Does having a PE license, registered professional engineer, count towards B contractor experience? I didn't see it listed in the presentation or on the website. No, the professional engineer doesn't count towards the B contractor's license. Usually that's the designers, design, blueprint construction, overseeing of a project, all of that won't count towards the B contractor experience. We're looking for hands-on journeyman level or apprenticeship towards the B. And once again, the B is a multi-trade, so it's going to be experience on projects where a structure was built, as well as 2 additional trades.
So my application payment was cashiered. Next is wait for my application fee number and PIN to check status. That is correct. So right now we just ended our fiscal year. It ends on June 30th and the new fiscal year starts on July 1st. So there has been a delay in processing, cashiering, and getting the applications to where they need to go. If you would like someone to check on it, you could email licensing@cslb.ca.gov. You will need to give them the full business name that was listed on the application, because your name and personal information might not be inputted as of yet.
I finished a 2-year program and hold my certificate of carpentry and currently taking the plumbing 2-year certificate. When I finish, would I get any time of experience for the plumbing certificate? Once again, any educational type experience is also based on the classification that you're going for. When you say certificate of carpentry or certificate of plumbing, we're looking for an apprenticeship, or if it's through a school, we're looking for the transcripts. And then those would be evaluated. If it's not an actual degree, like a master's, a bachelor, associate, then any actual trade school certificates or things like that would be evaluated on a 1-by-1 basis for the by the experienced deputy. If you are applying for 2 separate classifications, there's a chance that the 2-year carpentry one would apply to either the B classification or a C5 classification, possibly a C6 classification. The plumbing would apply to a C36, or in some cases, partly also to a C20 or something. But once again, those are looked at as, unless it's an official apprenticeship, it's looked as a transcript. So they would take one of the other that would gain you the most experience for the classification that you're going for.
How often are the processing times updated? Weekly? So that is correct. So if Monday happens to be a holiday, like it is coming up, then it would be Tuesday. But generally every Monday, processing times are updated and they are in real time on our website.
If it's the first time I've submitted an application and I'm looking for the date on processing time under original applications unit, exam applications, that's correct. So if this is your first application for a license, you'd be looking for the original application unit exam. That should be the class or the the heading that your application would be in.
Okay, with all the info that we provided to the board, are they able or would check our prior employers to see if we have more experiences or companies that we worked before? Just wondering because I have worked in another construction company that I didn't write any experience gained in there. So if the board doesn't know who you worked for, we can't check that. Whatever you submit on your application as far as your work experience goes, if you don't know, if you don't tell us, we don't know. So if you just list ABC company, that's what we're going to look at. You know, we're not going to look at XYZ if you didn't tell us.
And each one of those has to be signed by someone who has firsthand knowledge of that work. So until we have that on a certification of work experience signed by somebody who says, I have firsthand knowledge of these trades being performed between these two time frames, we're not going to, we'll have no idea what other experience you have, just what you send to us. And Mark says, thank you as always, CSLB, give these two a raise. Actually, we just do this so that hopefully we can speed your process and make your process to get your license and get out there and have your own business as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Do I need 4 years of experience, journeyperson, foreman, etc., to take the exam or to enroll in the license school? So CSLB is not affiliated with any of the licensing schools. If you do go that route, just be aware that they're not affiliated with the state, they're not affiliated with CSLB, so it is at your own risk. As far as experience, you do have to have 4 years. Everyone has to have 4 years experience in the classification that they're applying for. We do want journey level because we want to know that you do not have to be supervised, that you know your trade, you're going out there, you're performing it, you know, to the best of your ability, and it's the work is done correctly.
Once a year, my town hosts experience learning related to construction. Would attending this small training course help get licensed? Just as this workshop, anything that's out there that is giving you more information and makes the process clearer to you. I mean, it's not going to count towards experience or anything, but this is one thing we do here at the board, providing this workshop, but there are other avenues out there to get you information about the process and to hopefully make it a little clearer in the process and help you in your goal of getting licensed. So I would say, I would encourage anybody, if they had other questions or anything, to reach out to any avenues that they have to help them. But once again, attending other seminars or things like that won't count towards experience or anything, but it might make the process clearer for you.
So I just want to confirm, you said a civil engineering BS degree typically translates to the full 3 years max qualifying experience for a Class B license, correct? That is correct.
But once again, it will be evaluated once you send it in. But yes, that is the typical evaluation on civil engineering going for a B classification. The GC CSLB reference book is over 1,100 pages. Are there more specific studying tools to help get a passing score? Is everything in that book free game for the exam? So the book is just one resource. If you go on our website and look at the study guides, they'll give you some examples of questions for each classification and everything. Also, down at the very end, it will also reference some of the books that were used or tools that were used to create that exam. So they don't just use our reference, the CSLB reference book or law book, that will cover pretty much anything in the law portion of the test for the most part. But as far as the trade exams, those are often built from other resource materials, which are listed on those study guides.
Whereas the classification that you apply for, that's specific to the class. The law is general for everyone. So it's not specific to a classification. It's just in general to the state laws. What if you were out of state with regards to Q2, license number of company where experience was gained? How is this recorded if you don't need a license number in that state? So I'm
Question, is that line 2 on the certification of work experience where it requests the license number? So yes. So if you worked for a licensed contractor in another state and that state required them to have a certain type of license, obviously you'd want to fill that in. They'll use that to track down, what trades were able to be performed. If the state that you're in didn't require a license, you'd still list the name of the company that you were working for or the contractor that you were working for. You can leave the license number blank, and then obviously your certifier is going to put the trades on your certification of work experience. They'll evaluate, they'll look up that state's requirements for contractors just to see that, that you can perform all those trades in that state without being licensed, and that they reference the same types of trades that classifications we have here.
not a question, just wanted to say thank you. This was extremely helpful. For the BT, do I need 4 years hands-on experience? Yes, you do. For every classification, it is required that you have 4 years experience. Again, you could possibly supplement some of that experience with education. However, with the B2, 3 unrelated trades, 4 years minimum experience.
All right, we still have a little bit of time. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, let's see. I am currently sole owner. My experience in my profession comes from all previous employment since 2018. Been working for self. What would I put down for my experience? So what must I submit for work experience? I do have my business license for the city. So business license is different than a contractor's license. You can have a business license with no experience at all. So you say you're currently a sole owner. It would depend on what classification you have as that sole owner, and what work you've been doing and what classification you're looking to go for, or if you're looking to add to it. For your experience, you want to put, your certifier is going to put down the trades that you have performed directly related to the classification that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a C33 painting, you may have done a ton of other trades. We're only interested in showing that you have at least 4 years of experience in the last 10 years related to painting. So that's what your certifier would put down, but it's related to the classification you're going for and then the trades you have performed.
Are you able to take the exams online if you're out of state, or do you physically need to take them in California? Unfortunately, you physically need to take them in California. We do have 20 test sites throughout California. So depending on where you would fly into, then that would be where you would be assigned to take the exams.
What if you have experience doing family and friends home remodels? Would this count as experience? Once again, it depends on the classification you're going for. When you say remodels, I'm guessing maybe a B2. Once again, it's a matter of having someone who has first-hand knowledge of the experience that you're performing. If you're doing it for family and friends, even though that may be small projects, you're just going to need a certification of work experience for each form of experience that someone can speak to your firsthand knowledge. So if it was for a friend, you may have to have a lot of certifications of work experience that add up to your time frame. But once again, you need 4 years of experience in the B2 for 3 trades. So projects requiring 3 trades and the time frame and someone that has firsthand knowledge of that being performed. Self-taught is fine. Once again, it's about what you have actually performed at journeyman level. So there are many people who have self-taught them projects and experience. You know, there are many ways to list your experience. It's just what you have performed at a journeyman level and someone who can certify that they have firsthand knowledge of you performing that work.
Can you schedule the law test and the classification test on the same day? Yes, you can. So once your application is deemed acceptable, you will receive a notification from our affiliates to schedule your testing, and it can be done in the same day. You know, we still have some time for some questions if you'd like. If we didn't get your question, if you didn't want to put a question out there, you can always email the licensing email again, which is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. And you can give them as much information as you need, and they can go ahead and answer that or forward it to the correct unit who could be able to give you some answers. Can you have your fingerprints taken the same day as your test? So once your application is posted, that's when your live scan or your hard print card will be sent out to you. So depending upon the day that your exams are scheduled, if you have that on your person, yes, you can. So in California, you would do live scan, you would go to a facility where they can electronically do your fingerprints. If you were out of state and let's say you didn't have it with you when you came to take your exams, you would have to do it at your local PD or find out where they would be able to do your prints so that you can send those in to us. They do take a little bit longer than the live scan, but you are more than welcome to do it out of state, you know, if you're unavailable to do it here in California. They don't need to test it.
Wi-Fi. All right, so I have a little bit of time for any other questions. Let's see. So you would be able to do the live scan a day before the scheduled test, or is there more time needed after the live scan? Once again, it depends on, so once your application is posted, they're going to mail out a live scan packet, which is a form that you take with you to have the live scan done. So most of the time, you would have received that packet before your testing date would come up, because there's usually at least a 3-week gap between when your application is posted and when you're going into testing. So most of the time you would have that, but you do need to have that form before you can have the live scan done. For B2, would we fill out the original contractor's license, or is there a different app? No, all classifications, the different apps are for different reasons. So the original contractor's license is for somebody who has never had a license before, or is getting a brand new license in a different classification than they've held before. The original contractor's license waiver is for somebody who may have already gone through the testing process on a previous app, or has already held the classification before and they're getting another license in that same classification, or becoming the qualifier on a new license coming up. So one is for people who will be going through the testing process. The waiver application is for people who would not be going through the waiver or the exam process.
Just to be clear too, on the live scan, you have to have your live scan documentation with you. You cannot say, hey, I'm applying for a contractor's license. They actually need that because it has information that affiliates you with your application and the board. Do we have any more questions?
So I need to take it when I get the test, like a copy. Correct. You need to have the live scan form that we will mail out to you in order to complete the fingerprinting process.
And you don't do it at your testing site. You actually go to like a UPS store, I think maybe even mailbox, etc., where they actually do live scan. On your form, there should be a link where you can check and see which ones are like closest to the area that you're going to be in, so you know where to go.
Also, within our presentation, it tells you where you can go to the, I believe it's the Attorney General's website, and type in live scan, and it will give you a list of all locations that you can process the live scan. But you do need that copy of it that we mail out to you to take with you. All right, anybody else has any other questions? I am out-of-state contractor, so what is the rough time frame from after the live scan until you can take the test? The tests aren't required, the live scan's not required for you to take the test. The tests will be assigned to you once you've submitted an application and that application is deemed complete and acceptable. They'll post the application and then refer you over to the testing department. Typically, tests are assigned about 3 weeks out from when your application is posted. In that same time, you'll be receiving your live scan form, but one is not contingent upon the other. You can get your live scan performed at any time once you receive that form. And it's not dependent, you don't have to complete that until you take your tests. Those are two independent things. You do have to complete your live scan before the license will be issued, but it's not required to be completed before you take your tests.
Do I need to mail the copy of the live scan? So we do recommend it's a triplicate form. So one gets kept at the live scan facility. You should keep one and you should mail in a copy to us also when it's done within California. Obviously, the whole thing's being sent to us when it's the hard scan when you're out of state.
Many places do submit them electronically, but it's always good to mail in a copy as well. We'll wait for a few more minutes just in case anybody else has any questions. My school told me not to do anything with the live scan, no mail, anything. I'm kind of confused. Well, I'm not sure what they told you about not doing anything with the live scan. The live scan form is for you to take to a live scan location and begin the fingerprinting process. So that's what that form is for. If you don't complete that process, your license will never be issued. We have to have a full set of fingerprint background check on everybody who applies for a license. I'm not sure if they told you to wait until, you pass your exams or suggested you wait until you pass your exams. You can certainly do that, but you don't have to. As soon as you have your live scan form, you can have your live scan completed, or you can wait until you have your test done and complete it then. You'll just have to do it before any license will be issued.
So all applicants need to take the asbestos testing. So I do assume that you're talking about the open book asbestos. And yes, if you've never tested with CSLB, you don't hold a license, you don't hold another classification, then yes, you are required to do the open book asbestos testing. It's online. Once you finish it, it does submit over to us and it will be recorded on your application so that we can move forward from there. But it is required of everyone who has not already taken it, who is a qualifier.
And it is different than the asbestos classification or the asbestos certificate application. This is just a small general asbestos online test that is taken online separately from any application. All right, we'll wait a few more minutes for anybody with any final questions. All right, one last check for any final questions, and then we'll wrap up for today. All right, we'll call that our presentation for today. That's all the time we have for our workshop today. Thank you for all your questions. If you have any other questions about your application, we encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division. That address is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. That's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. If at some point you need to reschedule your exam, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams@cslb.ca.gov. We've also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on a green banner on the top of our homepage at www.cslb.ca.gov. If you're watching the archive video of this workshop on our YouTube page, you'll find a link to the presentation down below.
We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email at social@cslb.ca.gov. Special thanks to our licensing division and public affairs office for their help on this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractor State License Board. Thanks for watching.